Hi, my name is Sadia Al-hilo, and throughout this video you're going to see me kind of scoop my phone a little bit because I had a whole list of notes that I took on this article and I left them all at work, but that's okay because I think I kind of understand the concept really well. But my article is on how to write a research proposal, and this was released from the Department of Anesthesiology, Bangalore Medical College and Research Institute in India. And then address for correspondence is Dr. Devika Rani Dugappa, Durganjali Nilaya, and then Subhana Garden. And yeah, and what it's about really, and it's kind of funny that I got this article because this semester I'm doing an undergraduate research project through Europe. And so I actually had to write a research proposal. I had to submit to the IRB and everything. So yeah, like reading over this article was, it was nostalgic, I guess you could say. But so basically what it talks about is it breaks down the elements needed for a research proposal. And a lot of what you would see in this article is, for anybody who's taken the advanced social work writing class, it's very similar to how we had to format our literature review. So for example, you're going to have your main introduction section, which is your abstract, and that's really what it's what draws the readers in to your cause. It's what says, hey, this is interesting, read me, and this is what I want to do about it. And it's really what tells you, like, is this relevant, is this interesting, is this important? And then following that, you go into your objectives section, so to speak, where you kind of you give just a more in-depth background information to what you're talking about, why you're talking about it, where you're talking about it, how it's relevant to the field today, how are you opening the dialogue for something further, and why what you're talking about is important at all. Now, the reason why this is really important for this class is because we are in a research class. And for those of us who are going to be going on to do research, I know that I'm very interested in research. I know that not everybody is, gung-ho about it, but you're going to be writing research proposals to get funding for your projects, or even if you're not getting funding for your projects, like say you wanted to do something for the U, or even for an institute you work for, you're always going to have to write a research proposal to do that. And not only that, but we're talking about global and community-based research. We're talking about research from all over the world. I think that there's a lot of interest to see how we can solve issues in developing countries and also learn from their communities. I think I talked about that a little bit in my first video, that I think that even in America, we really have a lot to learn about what it means to be a community and to have connectedness. And so learning how to write a research proposal is going to be applicable because let's say you want to do a research project in a different country and you're working with the U. How do you get that funding? How do you get them to back you on doing that? I think that the way this article was written was very well done. It's very specific. It breaks down the different pieces one by one. It starts by telling you what the first section's about, like what your introduction needs to include, or your abstract, what else you need to have for contents. It talks about breaking down your paragraphs. How do you present different sections? Also, it talks about needing to include your methodologies. So like I know, for example, when I did my literature review, I had to say I used EBSCOhost, and this was the string of search words and search terms I used to find my articles. And then I also accessed the U of U Marriott Library. So you have to be specific about those things and what you're using to gain your information. And then also, like, let's say you want to pass out surveys, or you want to do human test studies where you're giving people placebo medications or whatever it might be, or you're just wanting to study human behavior. You have to talk about the methods that you're using, why they're effective, and you have to show the evidence for how they've been effective before, which this article does touch on. Now, one thing, not to be critical, the one thing that I think I personally have a difficult time with that might have been useful if you're going to have an article on how to write a research proposal, how to come up with your search terms in order to find background information would have been something that would have been very, very useful to me. I think I have a basic understanding of how to use EBSCOhost, but I think anybody who's done a research paper, written a literature review, it's not as simple as just typing in, you know, homelessness in the United States. Like, you want to be specific, you want to narrow down your search, and so that might be something that would be useful to touch on when you're talking about how to write a research proposal and how to be effective, or maybe even talking about what kind of languages to avoid. What I do like is that this article talks about how, with your research proposal, you want it to be language that a professional could relate to, and also just layman speech. You want it to be something that literally anybody could pick up and understand, and read and follow your research. And obviously, research papers are complex and confusing, but a lot of times, like, let's say you do publish your work after this research proposal, that's going to become public material, and you have to make sure that everyone can understand and follow where you're going with your project. And then I guess some question that I have, I mean, I know that I have a lot of interest in going into research. I guess I'd like to ask anybody else, is anyone else doing an undergraduate research project? And if so, what are they doing it in? And how do they think that an article like How to Write a Research Proposal could apply to them? And then also, has anybody else had experience with writing a literature review, or has done the social work advanced writing class that can kind of relate to some of the elements this talks about? And yeah, so just, sound off below. Let me know what you guys think, and